Hello friends, Lucas is here. I'm totally excited because I want to talk to you about a new interesting tool created by Infinite Tools. I'm talking about Infinite Curves. As we can see, Infinite Curves is a tool that allows us to work with colors using a color wheel. So this is the tool that we can completely change in its dimensions if we want to make it bigger inside our monitor, or less. We can decide how we want to see it. But the really interesting thing, I'm working with this tool from a couple of days because there was some updates that added new feature to the tools. So this is the latest version and we can do a lot of things. The first thing I want to show you is that it's really easy to approach to coloring an image in a really easy way. What I mean is that if I click inside my color wheel, look at that, boom, we have a new layer. This is the curves that we can see. The most interesting thing is if I move around my color wheel, I'm changing the color of the image immediately. So look at that. So immediately I can see really interesting changes in the color of the image. It's obvious if I go here I have a completely fake effect, but the trick is to stay near the center of the color wheel just to make subtle color adjustment. This is the trick. I don't want that the effect is too much evident. I just want to make the color like maybe golden hour, adding some honey tones to the image. I don't want to see the image with too much bluish tones, even if it's interesting the result we are adding, because maybe I can think that I want to start from this. I'm working on the neutral tones at the moment. Here we can see the settings. I can decide that I want to invert. Look the dot inside the color wheel. I can invert my color setting if I want. I can move again because maybe now I'm looking at the image and I think, no, I don't like too much magenta tones on the image, so maybe I want to try, okay, a different setting. Okay, maybe something like this. I'm working on the neutral tones, but now I can choose maybe the medium shadows tones, or the shadows, or medium highlights and highlights. So my second choice is to work on the medium dark tones. So I click here and look, I have a new setting here, and if I click now, I'm changing. Look at that, I'm changing the medium dark tones of the image, adding color only on the specific areas I'm choosing. So in this case, the medium dark tones. So it's just like a color mask, okay? The principle is quite the same. I'm not selecting a mask, I'm using directly on the settings inside the panel, but the result is the same. So this is really interesting. Now I'm looking at the color that can match perfectly with the image I want to have. Maybe something like this. Look, before after, and if you can see, we are removing some cyan tones that was visible here on the old image. Okay, maybe something like this, it's much better. Okay, but it's not enough because I can choose the shadows. I have a new level here, and now I can decide which color I want to use to add to the shadows. Really interesting. Okay, maybe something like this. And if you see, I can invert. Look, so we can see exactly the type of color that we are adding and the effect we are adding. So I can increase or decrease the setting. Same thing if I click on the medium, it's the same. And then I can try to use these settings. What are these settings? I decide that maybe I want to preserve the highlights from the coloring settings here, or maybe I want to preserve the midtones, or I want to preserve the shadows. So let's try Okay, in this way I'm preserving the highlights from the coloring, I'm preserving the midtones, and here I'm preserving the shadows. I don't see too much differences, so maybe I can choose this, and then here, if you see, we are using the BlendIf function, so we are blending the effect, preserving the highlights in this case. So this is really useful. And another interesting trick is, it's obvious, I can, if I want, I can add with the color picker tool, I can select a color, moving or adding or changing the color, or I can press the plus button to add a new color that I want to change. It's obvious. So I can work with a luminosity mask, or I can move with the color picker or with the plus button. But the most interesting thing is that maybe if I want to preserve these settings, but I want to change the color, and maybe I want to change the color with the same settings, I can lock all these three dots and maybe change them simultaneously. It's really cool. So I click here on the lock, and now if I move, you can see that all the dots are moving simultaneously, changing the color. And this can be really interesting, especially if I decide that I can work with complementary colors, the triadics color, if I use 4 colors or analog colors, so I can move simultaneously and look at how the image is changing, maintaining the same proportions in terms of colors. Look, okay, let me see, before, after. It's interesting the result I can get. And last thing I can do, I click again, I can add another color on the highlights, on the midtones. Maybe if I click again, look at that, I'm adding a new layer with the curves, maybe because I want to add a new layer of color to the image, because maybe it's not enough. And so I want to make the effect more visible. Okay, look, something like this, before, after. And then also here I can preserve the highlights, the midtones, or maybe the shadows this time. And now I can move my dot inside the color wheel again until I find a solution that is interesting for me. Yes, before, after, just another subtle adjustment. Or maybe if I don't want to use the BlendIf option, I click on the cross box here and I remove the effect. Or maybe I think no, it was better with a BlendIf on the shadows, boom, and I recover maybe the highlights here. Same thing, I can invert, look, okay, before, after, I can increase, or I can decrease. So because I want to see how the effect is visible on my layer. So this is really interesting. So the possibilities are endless, and we can do a very creative work using our tool. For me the image is ready, so if I see the before and the after, I made some subtle adjustment, but in this case I removed all the cyan tones that was present of the image at the beginning of my work, and now the image is ready. So friends, I hope you will find interesting this new creative way to work with colors with our images, thanks to this new tool. Infinite Tools made, in my opinion, another great way to coloring images in a very creative way. So enjoy retouching, friends. See you next time.